Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Just Rolled Already. I'm your host, Daryl.
And I'm your host, John.
I'm your host, John.
And welcome to the Shop Talk Small Topic Role-Playing. And today, John, you have a little personal grudge and griping about a particular thing about Pathfinder that somebody house ruled on.
Oh, it's not freaking a gripe or a complaint. It's just that...
Excuses.
Well, okay, sure, it's an excuse. But the particular house ruling deals around the fact that size modification. The only detail to it, really, that allows us to be considered quote-unquote medium, it is a Pathfinder ruling, is the fact that we don't get the +1 to hit, -1, or -1 to hit, +1 AC, which in the end balances out.
Okay.
The reason he said he did it was because it's just a bunch of random ones.
Who did it?
Jeremiah. Our host, Jeremiah.
Okay. Well, why don't you kind of give everyone a story about like why this bothers you? Like, just give them an example of what he does or what he did in his game that caused you to think about this one.
First example I can think of is we're buying a tent. Now, as you know,
No. Tell them what he did.
What? I'm telling you what we did.
No. About his world.
What about it?
Everyone's small, but
everyone's small, but you don't get the -1. You don't get the -1 penalty to your attack, and you don't get the +1 to your AC, which again they balance out. But then it's considered medium, but we're not really medium. That's the whole issue. So it led up to this point where we're buying a tent. Now in the game, there is a small tent which will fit 2 medium-sized people.
Okay.
Or correction, 1 medium-sized person or 2 small creatures. Medium will house 2 or 4, and then it goes up to 4, which is 8. And there's a civilian which houses 10 or 20 hobbitses. So now it came down to town. We had to buy a tent for us to party. We had 2 others with us, so I made a total of 6 characters. Now we went with it was basically an argument of if my carry load is reduced and the object made for a smaller size character is going to be smaller anyway, it doesn't make sense to, unless you're buying a personal tent for yourself, to get something smaller than a small tent, a small-sized small tent, if you will. That's what it is. Now you hit this, and because you can size cap, you can adjust these sizes by the book. It says for creatures for smaller creatures, they are, I think, 1/2 the weight.
Yeah.
They're 1/2 the weight. So you have a 20-pound tent.
Is now 10.
Now a 10-pound tent has enough for 1 small creature and all of their belongings that they currently carry. So you got that, and then he was basically trying to get us to buy normal tents, which held 2 medium creatures, or 1 medium creature was just 2 small creatures. And I'm like, I don't need the medium tent. It's like, well, we'll get a bigger tent, I guess. And then it became this whole ordeal with calculating how many people we had to fit and what was a better weight ratio.
So what you're saying is that the calculations of this entirely is like irritating.
It's a pain in the ass. It's like, well, then it's like, how many chickens can we buy? And it's like, if we bought a pavilion and housed 20 hobbitses, how many chickens do we need to feed those hobbitses? No, I'm just kidding. That last part. But it would get to that kind of point where you'd have to keep doing the recalculation, weight, and then you get like odd numbers, and you got to, point something. You got to add those up. You get decimal, you got to add on decimals, and your carry weight values are like in the 0.63 or 0.65
continually.
Yeah.
Kudos to John for going by the book.
I'm staying by the book, okay? I'm like, just give me the 1 AC, I'll take -1 to hit. I'll glare at them.
But what you're saying is that because in this world alone, everyone's a small creature, and in the book, but by being small, you are now a medium.
Right.
But to you, that makes no sense because you, John, like to keep things down to the point. He says you're small creatures, but because of this world, you're all medium. You say, no, I want to be taking everything for mechanical reasons to be small.
Right.
Now, But
it doesn't stop a small character from buying. Now, that was the other argument, is like, if everyone in this world is small, why would they build medium-sized anythings? And I'm like, well, I'm sure that if they're trying to accommodate a specific number of hobbitses, if you will, they'd build maybe 8-man tent, because you have, if you were to go off, it'd be 1, 2, 4. Then it immediately shoots up to 10 or 8, and then, or it goes up to 10. It's 1, 2, 4, 10. That's really, or 2, 4.
Now you're going to the point that like my abstracted GM styles are beginning not to care, and because
Yeah.
I don't bother with all that stuff all the time because the way I see it, Jeremiah sees it this way the same way I do. Everything is the same size. Like, for example, we're all small, so therefore is not the new medium. That's a new norm. That's the new average size. Now, you're talking about the Pathfinders saying, like, okay, you're our medium creatures. Small creatures, by our books, mean that they require different things.
Right.
But we got to make sure, just in case, I don't know, a medium creature shows up in your world and has medium-sized things, would that be categorized as large and blah, 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 blah. That's what you're talking about.
Essentially.
But I like to simplify things just to avoid that kind of stuff.
Right, so you just say everybody's small.
Everybody's small, which means that everyone should now, in Jeremiah's opinion and mental thinking, everyone's medium. So therefore there is no negative modifiers, nor are they +1 or -1.
That's exactly where it's coming from.
So that's what he's doing.
If everyone's the same size, who's really small?
Yes, and so he rationalizes it as we're all medium now because that's new medium is the normal, and we're all normal.
Yeah, because the modifiers to attack rolls for any small creature is a -1.
Okay.
But
Now,
all small creatures receive a +1 to AC.
But if everything's small, does that mean it just cancels everything out?
Oh, I'm sorry. Small creatures receive a -1 to AC. -1 to AC.
No, I thought they'd get a -1 to hit because they're so much smaller. They get a +1 to AC because they are smaller. +4 against large creatures.
You're right.
And yes, the abstracted GM just went to the rules. And it doesn't quite matter to me because I follow by the rules enough that it makes sense, not to the point that it's a flaw like John. And if you are a by-the-book GM and you see my sayings as blasphemous, well, I'm sorry, it's just my personal opinion. And we're the internet, so we can say anything.
So are you like MLG or something, or is there like a certain reason you go by the book?
Just for clarification, it's for consistency.
Yeah, he's big about consistency, and I'm not. And Sean, what do you think about this whole thing? John went on this big long spiel about the fact that, hey, I'm really by the book here. So if we're all small, it doesn't mean we all should have all the perks of being small.
Well, I mean, it's either you're going to have to change the rules, or you're just going to have to call Pathfinder HQ or something like that. I don't know what you want to do about this.
But I say, just deal with it, kind of thing. And yeah. I probably we're talking about Jeremiah's approach to this. I can't speak for him right now, but I know what he's talking about because Jeremiah talked to me about this before. We're all the same size, so therefore it's the normal. So let's call it medium for simplicity's sake. So what do you think? Because he's talking about the rules, and Jeremiah's talking about the story or the simplification.
Well, I personally would follow the story. I mean, I don't think based off of what I'm probably going to do, I'm not going to go with the technical aspect at first. Probably, I'm probably going to go with the story aspect. So I mean, if it's just a small nitpick, I think it's just.
But the thing is, like, it's a bonus, and there's no penalty. Like,
or you just take away the.
Or there is a penalty and there's no bonus.
Well, you could also reskin a race just because it says orc doesn't mean you can suddenly change it to his version of goblin.
Well, it's orc, but goblin. Like they are reskinned races. That's what this new iteration is.
But if it's a reskinned race, doesn't it mean he can do whatever he wants? And if he says it's Pathfinder, but we're not using the base races, we're just doing what I say, well, then that's perfectly legit and fine because he can just simply say that we are the small creatures in this world. But maybe our version of their version, the normal version of medium, means that they're giants. And he didn't want, and he's a very simplified GM when it comes down to some rules. For me, I am abstracted. I follow the rules, and also I follow my gut. And and what I see is a fair judgment call if it gets in the way. I don't care most of the time what somebody complains about because it stops the story, and I'm not about stopping the story. But if you want my personal opinion, I would probably, as a game master in a world of small things, just to prevent the headache, I would probably just have everyone register their characters' races as small, and get the bonuses rather than going through this thing. Just for example, if you say you run across a gargantuan creature or even a tiny creature, wouldn't that normal in Jeremiah's world? Wouldn't a fairy that's just a tiny creature be considered small?
Well,
And that's the thing that would get confusing. So I'd probably just throw it down like that.
Because apparently the only modifier in Pathfinder is to your AC. So now you have a bunch of things getting +1 to AC everywhere.
And then that means that everything's hard to hit.
It's now one step more difficult to live in the world.
And I'm all for that. Actually, it'd be more fun because everyone kills everything anyways in my games.
But does that make sense when you're... I mean, it actually, in a lot of ways, it makes sense. It's same thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're smaller, which means it's more difficult. But I think the reason why everything has a negative in that part is because you're facing in a world of creatures that are majority medium, and that could be a problem.
Well, no, we're not facing anyone medium. There's nothing in the world
Well,
that's medium.
then by all means, it doesn't really quite matter. But if it's all medium, that's fine. And just simply about your whole tent spiel, well, just say just go off the basic rules and stuff and forget the whole.
That's the thing. When you go off the basic rules, it doesn't have anything. Like, it's not clarifying that.
I think it's just who cares kind of aspect.
You could say who cares, but until you deal with the headache of the logistics of it,
You don't give a shit. I am the most laid back game master in the world, and it drives
I'm
me
talking
crazy.
about game master. You as a player,
Me as a player,
have to deal with.
if I had to
You're
deal-
not getting a bonus to AC, but you're still getting all the burden.
now I can imagine Kylie screaming about this right now if he was here, because he's all about getting the perks, not the negatives. I could see that irritating me at first, but getting used to it, whatever. It's a game. If it's the nature of the game, it's the nature of the game, and the game master is the law. But you can also compromise with the game master a little bit. If they're adamant and they're being a difficult person, then whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much my biggest issue with it. Is just where there's no +1. Like, I don't see a modifier to attack rolls because there's no change in attack. It's just everyone gets a +1 AC. Just everyone's 1 point harder to hit. So now you got to deal with that.
Well, I mean, isn't there also bonuses for it other than the height? Other than the height for the race itself.
This is a very weird subject we're doing, but even though it does make some pretty interesting conversation materials, because John complaining about this stuff is kind of funny. But I know some people who are like John out there who have to have the down to the spec micro scale.
Not micro scale. It's actually really macro scale.
Macro?
Yeah.
You're talking about a very finite thing. I'm talking about, I like macro meaning like overall rules.
Right.
But you're talking about a very particular part of the rules.
I'm not arguing one, but here's the thing. I'm not arguing about one instance or one point of it. It's something that affects the entire swath of the world in the game.
Okay. So your rationalization on the world is what you're talking about.
Right.
Because you want things to be... You're a person that likes order. Order is just your thing. Your computer... I bet your computer files are alphabetically placed on your desktop.
Nope.
Okay, fine. Whatever.
Arrange by type.
Arrange by type. Okay,
Right
but
click, arrange by type. Anyway, but my point is, like, we're not being treated as medium, or we're not being treated as small, but we're classified as small for purposes of us having reduced carry weights. Like, when you're small, you only get 3/4 of your carry weight for your strength.
So you're wanting the... So in short, you need things a little bit more... Because I'm so confused.
Every time I had to do 3/4 carry weight for all of your weights are 3/4. So if you could lift, or if you could drag 500 pounds up a hill with having an 18 strength, you're actually dragging. Let's see, 15 times 25 is.
Let's say 100. Then you're just pulling 75 pounds.
375.
Okay, that I can understand getting annoying. So you're meaning that he doesn't even take out, he doesn't classify you as medium, but he says you're small just for the sake of negatives.
Well, we're small. No, I wouldn't say it that way, because
Okay.
that's not true. We're small, but we're treated as medium. I don't get it.
I don't get it either because now I'm kind of confused. This is such a confusing topic, and yes, I know that everyone has all these small, but all these little nitpicks. You're talking about a house ruling of a particular individual who makes a call in the game, but it doesn't match your consistency because you cannot make hide or hair any sense out of it.
Right.
And now that you're talking about it, I can see the confusion of it. So you need to. What you're saying is follow the rules a little bit more, just so that way there'd be more
Treat
order.
us all small. That's all I ask. It's true. It's all small. Just small.
It's kind of like what I said earlier. Everyone's small. Get your bonuses, get your negatives. I'm sure there's a medium creature out there that's giant to you.
Because that's why I don't like, a lot of times I don't like house rules. Like, just because house rules can confuse the hell out of me.
Well, I house rule a lot of things, but I generally house rule some of the more confusing aspects of games, like XP.
Kind of like the house ruling that all weapons are now 1/10 the cost.
Oh, God. When I heard that from you about Jeremiah,
Now-
that's made me scream no to the heavens.
Now we can grill Jeremiah about that next time.
Next time, yes. If he ever gets back here,
He will.
better. Anyways, I think that will do it for this confusing episode about what the hell's going on here. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe below. If you have anything that we can talk about on the podcast that you want to hear us talk about, well, you can send them to us at our YouTube or our Gmail at justrollitalready@gmail.com. I'm Daryl.
I'm John.
I'm Sean.
Have a good day.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.